Hello and welcome to another We Interview video here on gamingtrend.com. My name is Adam Marino, and today our special guest is an entire team at Jackbox to talk about their work with Jackbox Party Pack 10 and their experience on the team. We'd love to go down the line and have everybody introduce yourselves. Let's start with Tim, and we'll go down the line.
Adam, I just want to say I appreciate that intro, and it's so nice that just before you hit record, your energy was really kind of combative and hostile, I want to say. This is really refreshing. I'm happy to meet this Adam. My name is Tim Sniffen, and I've done a handful of things with Jackbox, writing, some drawing, some voiceover. But for the Party Pack 10, it was my great honor to direct TKO2, the sequel to TKO. Should I direct it then?
Yeah, that would be great.
Fantastic. I am Brooke Breit. I'm a creative director at Jackbox Games, and I had the privilege of directing Dodo Re Mi, which is the music game this year in the Jackbox Party Pack 10. I'm going to popcorn it to Alina.
Oh, I am Alina Constantin. I'm a game designer at Jackbox, and I was creative directing Fixie Text in the Party Pack 10 this year, which is our chaotic text editing game.
Let's go over to Spencer next.
Hi, yes, I'm Spencer Ham. I am a creative director, and for Party Pack 10, I directed the game Time Jinx. Warren, bring it home.
What's up?
Bring it home, Warren.
Last and most likely least, I'm Warren Arnold. I'm a creative director. I used to be a writer at Jackbox. I did Hypnotorious this year, which is a hidden identity game set in the world of a hypnotist.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So we've got somebody from almost every game from this party pack.
We do.
That's so exciting. So we've got a little bit of representation of everything you guys might be able to see in the upcoming game. So let's jump on in. This is the most people I've ever had in one interview. So what we're going to do, let's just keep the order if we can. It'll be Tim, Brooke, Alina, Spencer, Warren. And if you don't have anything to say, obviously you don't have to say anything. But I think you're probably going to want to say something. Anyway, question number one. You've had some wacky game modes in the past. What are pitch meetings like? And is there a favorite memory that you have of like somebody sharing something that was just like, oh my gosh, that's outlandish. Let's do it.
Well, I mean, honoring the order. Also, we can do a thing if any one of us are answering a question badly, someone else can go,
yeah,
I got it. Do you want to do, I'm setting myself up for being overthrown. I feel like I'm going to take a story that other people might tell, and I wasn't even there for this pitch. I guess Arnie Niekamp, now he's our head of editorial, has also directed games, including Drawful, Faking It, pitched something called Poop Cake, which I wasn't there for, so others might be able to elaborate.
Yeah.
And it was not greenlit. You will not find it in a party pack. And at one point, he wanted to mention it at like a convention or during a panel, and said to our CEO, Mike Builder, you know, we try not to talk about things that maybe are still in the mix and could surface. Can I mention Poop Cake? And Mike Builder said, we are never making poop cakes. You talk about it all you want. I'm not sure of the game mechanics, but I can tell you, I think that was a pitching moment of like, oh,
well,
buddy,
it was in its own way. Weapons Drawn was the final realization of Poop Cake. It was just like it was like the whole idea of Poop Cake was like trying to hide a poop inside of a decorative cake, right? That was the goal. So obviously you can see the parallels to Weapons Drawn, but a little bit more marketable, I think, Weapons Drawn than Poop Cake, but we'll never know, I guess.
I think that's a perfect nod to the fact that ideas evolve in the company. So there are no bad ideas. A lot of us editorially come from improv and comedy. So we're very used to throwing out everything that we're thinking about and then like following the thing that feels like it has legs, because that's the thing that's running. So I think for us as a studio, like ideas come from everywhere. Everyone at the company is involved in pitching, prototyping, play testing, new ideas. And then there's a greenlight committee that is, goes over all those ideas. And for me, it was such a joy when I first started. I pitched a game called Joke Boat that Spencer Ham brilliantly directed. And it was like a paper test. I mean, we really didn't have a prototype. We did, but it was like pieces of paper with jokes, like half jokes written on them, being thrown around a table, and then we would present them out loud and just kind of give points like on the fly. So everything at the company, some of it happens in the most beautiful technological sense, and some of it is literally paper being thrown across a table, which is wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's part
chaotic.
of that. Very much. I feel like that is a lot of the times, like someone will have just a nugget, and well, like for Champed Up, I think like you guys had a completely different idea, but there's like, let's just go into a room and just see what crazy stuff comes out of this. Trying to be very positive, like you said, kind of chaotic. It was, there's all sorts of crazy ideas coming out, but you could kind of like grab onto whatever the nugget is. So
yeah,
and I feel like I will just jump in to say that as one of the newest members of the directors team, it was really exciting to see ideas come from very different places. So sometimes it was just on one-on-one talking about some random design idea that writers like, I'm not really sure, should I pitch it? And then we spend the next couple of weeks prototyping something. Sometimes it's something that's been thought of, as they said, for years and totally revamped to another idea. Sometimes it's a Google Doc. Sometimes it's a prototype that's been built on for 3 weeks, and really elaborate. So there's really a lot of different variables in how it comes together.
Nice.
Yeah, and then for Champed Up, like, yeah, it reminded me of another example of like that poop cake kind of hard pivot. Like, I was pitching that game originally as like a tarot card game. Like, I was very much inspired by like creating these cards of an image and a name, and it just wasn't working. And so I was chatting with our principal engineer, Ben Jacobs, and it was like within like 10, 15 minutes, we just kind of quickly iterated on it and found that mechanic Champed Up, and it was sometimes that easy. But I'd say the craziest pitch for me was the first game I pitched, which was Survive the Internet, because at that point we were all in the studio, and so we are all just paper testing, and I was kind of going insane because I was literally trying to make an analog like internet on paper. Like, I was cutting out different website ideas because I would do I would like fold up the like player response, and then fold that up, and then have the other players like write a response, and then reveal it by like flipping it down. It was like, in retrospect, now that we do things remotely, and like on whiteboard apps, it would have been so much easier. But since we were all in the studio, I was just using a lot of paper, and not good for the environment. So the fact that we're remote now, we're saving a lot of trees. Yeah.
That's fantastic. It seems like you guys have a really comfortable work environment, which is conducive. I was a theater kid. I went to school for theater, so like I get how important that is. And it seems like you guys really have a collaborative and comfortable space to kind of just throw out ideas. And if poop cake can get thrown out, then I think almost anything can.
Adam, you're one of us. You're one of us. Welcome to the fold.
I love it. Okay, now here's one that's going to be very difficult for you guys. So I want you to think about it. If you had to pick a Jackbox best of games for your team, so these are like your team's favorite ones, is there a clear favorite, or are there a couple clear favorites that, like, since the first iteration of Jackbox, this has been a team favorite?
This is a really hard question. And also it's very personal, because it's like, I think if you ask the studio, because like our teams, like we kind of coalesce into game teams, but then that gets absorbed into the greater studio. So like my brain already is going like, who's my team? Who are we talking about? Is it the one that I most recently worked with? And so I think I'll say we could probably only answer personally from ourselves in our own mind what some of our favorites, but two of my absolute favorite Jackbox games are Trivia Murder Party. I think is like, just combines what we do so well as a studio in such a like a wonderful, fun, accessible package of like the joy of like the trivia questions, the voice of the host in conjunction with the randomness of the mini games that you get thrown into is just like, it's such a ride, and you see it being so popular amongst our audience. And then a personal biased favorite is Job for me, because I've been very happy with how that's been received as a game, and it's a twist on essentially a mechanic of Quiplash, which we already know, but just done in a very different way. And I think it's given people a lot of freedom to express themselves in a very silly, fun, unexpected way that I love.
Love to hear it.
Everything Brooke said, of it's going to be just very personal, subjective answers for all of us. One that comes to mind for me is Rimmerang from Party Pack 9. In part just because like the memories that spring to mind of playing it, like while we were making it, you know, we're playing it every week just to see how it's doing. And it never got old. Like it just was a real, and it turned out to be a really nice time for the team to come together and kind of check in. You end up having that like half an hour once a week where like, you know, we were also a team that did not mind leaning into like the manufactured drama of it. So there'd be a lot of like, how you cannot vote me out again. Do not, Hector, don't, you know, and it was just like, it was nice to keep that level of joy like throughout the process. It just was always a weekly reminder of like, oh, this is fun. Like, let's make it as fun as we possibly can.
Tim, did you get voted out a lot?
Nobody would think that, and I think that's sort of an irrational conclusion. No, I was usually kind of like the friend of the house. Like, I rarely got voted out, Adam. I don't think I ever got voted out.
We met Tim, we met Tom, we met Tom.
Alina, what you got for us?
Yeah, I also I'll go from two angles. My most recent favorite actually is also from Party Pack 9 is Jumptopia, which kind of grew on me essentially. I've played it a lot with my friends, and I think there's something to it where you have this total randomness to what you get that is very, very conducive to very strange stories depending on who got what object, and it's been really great for these kind of group inside jokes. I have played games with friends where someone just really made a story around a baby desk, and then that moved over to another game that we would play. For our team, for Fixie Text, Job was also a really, really big inspiration, and a lot of fun came from sort of repurposing other words and having a zany world in which you're playing. And so there's really so much that we draw from and that we like to play amongst each other.
Love that. What we got, Spencer?
Yeah, so I you know, TMP for sure. I mean, definitely a passion project. But like I like to kind of answer these questions as like not like necessarily like the heavy hitters that you know you always see like on this like a Quiplash, Fibbage, which obviously games that we all love, but like what are some more of the like the hidden darlings, I guess you could say. And for me, it's like Faking It, which I've never laughed so hard playing with my family. Watching my dad fail miserably was one of the funniest moments I've ever had playing Jackbox, as well as Push the Button. I've never, as some people know here, I've never role played so hard than when I played Push the Button, to the point when we were testing it, I honestly scared myself a little bit. What did I yell one time at a playtest?
Spencer, I was there. Spencer was an alien, and it was like he was going in so hard. He's like, you're fools to come after me. I'm not an alien, I'm a human. Like he was just so convincing. But then we voted him out, and he stood up, he's like, you got me, but you'll never get all of us.
Right. right.
You were just so passionately like that game.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Borderline HR problem. But ultimately okay. Yeah, those are my two.
And Warren, you got something?
Yeah, I'll kind of follow Spencer's lead by going maybe a little dark horse. I would say Champed Up, but bring back. That's a game that like the more you dig into it, you really kind of find yourself pushing some crazy, weird internal buttons. Like, okay, someone's going to be doing this, so I really got to go out here with it to try to win this matchup. And I feel like the best way to play that game is to really try to swing and miss. Like if you hit a home run, it's you knocked out of the park. But if you miss, it's still really funny. And not only that, you can buy the cards. Did you guys know that? So yeah, if everyone didn't know that,
That's awesome.
this is how you merchandise right here.
Yeah, we end up spinning in a whole other card game out of it.
Wow.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And then yeah, I think I would say Patently Stupid, maybe on the self-serving side of it. That's just a game that like it was the first game I directed and I felt great about it. And then watching people play it, it was just like, oh wow, people really like this game. So it's again just anytime we set people up to be creative and you just you like as a writer, there's plenty of things I can write and try to be funny, but nothing really replicates when people find their own thing and make it their own. And I feel like that's one thing as a studio we've really kind of leaned into and done well. So
there are two things that I really noticed from your answers, and one of them is you guys are playing the game on a consistent basis. And I think that's so interesting to hear is like you guys are talking about playing with your family, playing with your friends, playing in the office. Like that's it truly says something about how much you guys enjoy what you do when you're kind of bringing it home and doing it outside of work hours. I think that's amazing. On top of that, I've played Jackbox Party Packs 1 through 6. So clearly I have to get 9 because like half of your answers came from 9. So I'm going to have to find a way to get 9.
We'll find a way.
If you're fishing for a code, Adam, we'll send you one.
Yeah.
But talking about 1 through 6, that kind of goes into my next question, which Jackbox kind of took COVID by storm in a lot of ways, with friends being able to play on Zoom, play through Twitch. How did you guys feel at the time that your game was bringing groups together at such a scary moment? And how kind of did that impact how you were making the game? Did that impact how the future was being held? Because like we played so much Quiplash, so much TKO, so much of that just like because we had nothing else to do. It was things that we could do with people that didn't. And I was telling Tim earlier, I was like putting the streamer thing on there where it made it so that outside of your group you couldn't see the code to get into the room was a game changer for us streamers that loved playing the game live. And so how did that kind of impact you guys?
Does anyone else? I can start unless anyone has something.
Do it, Tim.
I can say we were never thrilled about the reason it was happening. I mean, we did a lot of like, wow, what an unfortunate reason to have this happening. But I think before COVID arrived, it was still always, we want people to be able to connect and have fun together. Like Warren just talked about setting up the audience to be kind of the funniest person in the room. And so that we were able to provide that in like a greater capacity for more people that maybe had enough like Zoom group calls with their family where all they did was chat. I know my family did one and we were like, we know each other enough. That's enough. So to be able to kind of have a place for people to go or something to bring to those group moments, which at the time was the main way to connect, like that was really meaningful to the company. I think people just derived like a lot of value out of like, hey, if we can help even 1% in this rough time, fantastic.
I love that.
I'll say too, one of the reasons our stuff worked so well during COVID is prior to that, people who streamed our games, they were so good about just letting us know what the experience was like. So when we were first kind of, cutting our teeth with these games and we're trying to tailor them to the streaming experience, we had so many great fans who would reach out to us and just let us know like, hey, it would be great if your games did this, it's like room code hiding. And as we've grown, things like moderation and stuff like that, we've always been very welcoming and open with our community. Like we love to put stuff out for them, but we love to get stuff back. It's like, because we're trying to make those games for people and, just like Tim said, to connect people. So we want to know what's getting in your way. And so by the time, COVID rolled around, we had already learned some lessons from, the people who shared with us. So.
And again,
awesome.
like we're living that life kind of like that you mentioned earlier, that we play the games. So even all through development, we're living and learning and doing it in a hybrid way. And I think it was important to all of us that like, how are we enjoying it? How are we playing it? And trying to provide a similar flexible experience for outside the company who's going to be playing it. Because like we don't release the games until we've played them a million times with ourselves to be like, you know, it's kind of like mother tested, you know, kid approved. You're like, we put ourselves into this and this is how we're playing it. And it was mentioned earlier, like even in the pitching, like we changed from being in the room to pitching on more digital tools and then learning things. I feel like every year we're also learning from what we just made to move forward and make it even better. Like we're like, ooh, this was something we unlocked, or this is some feedback we got. Like, and we want to act on that. So it's always like moving and changing and growing depending on what it needs.
That's so awesome. Spencer, Alina, you got anything for that one?
Yeah, I mean, I just to kind of echo what Tim was saying, it's like it was definitely like I remember like 2020 just wrestling with that, you know, because it was like, oh man, the world is a real bleak place, but business is good, you know, like it's like it was hard to like, but ultimately, you know, it came down to is like, oh my goodness, like we're actually making a positive impact in a tough time. So it was like, you know, I kind of came around to it. But yeah, I think like at first it was a little bit of a conflicted kind of feeling about the success during like such a like, you know, bad period of last several years. So yeah, but it, you know, it's just great. I think it's just so rewarding, especially when we go to like events and we get like we don't get to see a lot of like in person, you know, like fans, and so what they do and they go up to you say like, oh my gosh, this game was so like playing pack whatever was so important during college or during COVID, or it's very rewarding.
I guess I'll wrap that up as one of those people at the time. I was not at Jackbox yet. I got to start at the company a year after the pandemic, and so for me, I was overseas in college getting a master's degree after about 10 years of making indie and art games, and kind of questioning how I was connecting with people at the time, because I was in college in the US with my family and with my friends overseas. And a lot of the games that I was playing with people, we got tired really quickly because we were either overanalyzing the games or because a lot of them didn't feel as social. And I had started playing Jackbox a couple of years before with strangers and Airbnbs and stuff. And when we brought that out, it just completely, actually, it really changed my pandemic experience, because I got to laugh and make jokes. With the fact that a lot of games you get super hyper focused on the game, which is cool, but Jackbox was a really big shift for me in that I could still have a conversation that was external to the game and go in and out of it. And it really was one of those things where I just had that moment where I'm not just, you know, studying games and making them, I'm really living them, and this is the kind of work environment I want to be a part of. So that
That's
was
such an awesome
yeah.
way to introduce that aspect. I really love that. So you know, each party pack comes with so many games. I think the most was 8, but usually it's within that 6 to 7 range, I think. Um, what makes you choose which ones go where, and is there just a lot of games that are in production at one time and you just pick which ones fit the best together, or is it a situation of you guys are fighting tooth and nail? It's Brooke versus Tim to see who's getting their game into the next party pack.
Well, that is a given. But no, all of our party packs, and this is like, it's amazing that we're at 10, include 5 games. So it's like that model is like we have they're sequential in number, but each one has 5 games. And usually there's a formula to what kinds of things we're looking for to put together, but that formula can be broken in a lot of different ways, or how we're approaching it. So there's usually like a sequel that is like the anchor title, you know, to kind of go, ooh, something that people really look forward to. What have we re-envisioned? So that is pitched, as well as the other types of games. And we usually have a drawing game, a trivia game, a player input game where you're writing, a creative one, and then there's often like some sort of social or wild card situation where it's like, hey, is this a place where we can dig into the kind of yelling at each other or experimenting in something that we haven't done before?
I love that. There's just
Yeah,
so much to do.
Yeah, it might surprise some folks, but like you could kind of alluded to is like, do you have all these things like pre-planned for like years? It's like, no, like it's kind of like we improvise like every year in a way, because like we do like a clean slate. We know kind of crossover from year to year, like what the anchor title will be, as Brooke said, like what that sequel is going to be. But after that, it's like, okay, there's 4 slots. So how can we round out this pack based off of knowing that like, okay, there's already a trivia game, or there's already like a player joke input game. So like, knowing that that's already there, how do we like balance that out with 4 other games? And sometimes it's like people who pitched a year before the game wasn't quite ready, they'll pitch it again, and so there's like some of that kind of momentum moving forward. But like a lot of the times it's just like clean slate, kind of like, all right, let's see some fresh ideas. So it's a little bit of a combination. But yeah, there wasn't too much. There's not too like throughout the entire series, there wasn't like this grand plan of like, especially early on, because it's like, are we like after? I remember like 2 or 3. It's like, is there going to be another one? Is there going to be another one? You know, it's like, oh, people bought 3 a lot. Okay,
we'll do it
let's
again.
do 4. Yeah, so yeah, which I think kind of plays to our strength though too, is being able to improvise a little bit each year. So
that's awesome. So the last question that I ask is one that I ask in every interview that I do, and it's something that's a little bit special to us. So feel free to just think about this for a second. But what is one memory in your time working in the gaming industry that will always stay with you as a happy memory? Like one that at the end of it all, you're thinking back to your career and you're going, I loved this moment.
Besides Spencer losing his mind and that push the button.
That would be mine too. Yeah.
Spencer's had an impact, clearly.
Yes.
Amazing.
History will judge Spencer's contribution to the gaming industry.
There's one there, like the one that jumps out at me, and that would be was it like 2016? It's like it was the first year we went to TwitchCon, and it was like right after Party Pack 3. So we're at TwitchCon, we have a stage, and we were showing TMP for the very first time.
Oh, yeah.
And I just distinctly remember this. It's like out of a scene of a movie or something. I'm standing there next to Andy Poland, who is our like audio director and who did like all the music and everything in TMP. And we're just seeing like this, like just people just eating it up, especially the final round, which was like a lot of thought was put into. People are just eating it up and loving it. And like we just remember just like turning, like making eye contact and kind of just doing a nod of like, we did it. We did it. Because at that point, it was all just like, in theory, we think this is really, really fun. We're having a good time. But to actually see it in person translate to a bigger audience was just so rewarding.
That must be special, just like seeing all those people just smiling and laughing along with you after all the time that it takes to making games is not easy.
No.
So
it's not, yeah.
Especially funny games that you're like, these jokes hit as much as we hope they do.
We think this is very funny. Will the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have one that goes along with what Spencer said. And Spencer, I don't know if you were there for this, but this is going way back to the beginning of the party packs. We had this idea of the game is on the screen, everyone's playing with their phone. And we did a thing where we went to a movie theater in Chicago, the Music Box. It's like one of those old, beautiful movie theaters. We had the most like taped together version of Lie Swatter, which is in Party Pack 1. And it's just like bugs come on screen and you have to vote if something is true or not. But we just said to the entire movie theater full of people, which I don't know, maybe 200 people, it was like, we're going to send you a web address. Go to this and you're going to be able to vote on this thing and it's on the screen. And even that, like the idea of like phones as controllers was totally like, I don't know, is this a thing? and everyone did it, and it was super fun. I remember Arnie Niekamp like kind of just stood up in front of the screen and directed everyone. But even in that, everyone afterwards was like, this is a thing. Like, this is totally going to work. And it was really cool, especially now with Party Pack 10, looking back on that and being like, oh yeah, it was a thing. It did work. So that, like, I'll just always think of that. And I think either someone was coming from or it might have been Christmas sweater night at the Music Box. We all wore Christmas sweater, like bad Christmas sweaters. So add that to it, which to me makes it like a perfect Jackbox memory, because it's like, and this was also happening, and we all hyper committed to it. But that was, what a great night.
Yeah. Committing to the bit is so important. Mm-hmm. I will say, speaking of what Tim just said, the phone as the controller, the only video game that my mom has been able to actually play was Diddy Kong Racing on the N64 until Jackbox. And I was just like, hey, all you have to do is pull out your phone and type in this address and type in this number, and you're playing the game. She was like, oh, I think I can do that.
And she can. Amazing.
And she can.
I have to share that one of my personal work joys, victories, because there's been so many of just like delightful, wonderful memories. But sorry, my dog just aggressively threw himself against the door. I apologize for that. Relax, Jeff. It's an inside joke. I directed Roomerang last year, and we really didn't know if we were gonna like be able to like make this accessible reality show experience for people to play. Like, there was a lot of question of like, is this relatable? Is this like, how many people want to play like a role play reality show experience? And we were like, deeply in our hearts, we're like, we don't know, but we're going to find those people, and those people are going to love it. So basically, we build this game, we're so proud of it. And then my personal heroes, Rob has a podcast, which is a reality show podcast I listen to regularly in my life. They did our early look. So not only were they involved early on in the process to kind of give some feedback, but then to have the game that we made and we put our heart and soul into, played by actual former Survivor players on a live stream, was like the pinnacle of my existence as a human being. Like, it was truly like just clouds of my personality crashing together and exploding into euphoria.
And like, because I mean, you remember, during a thing, you're like, are they going to get it right away? They came to play. Like, the best part was they got it instantly. It was so satisfying to watch.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It must be so fun to see, because I know that y'all have seen Twitch streams of this stuff. I know that you guys have seen YouTube clips. I know you guys have seen the people play these games. It must be so crazy to see some of these people committing so hard to a point where you get what you guys are talking about with Spencer, where it's people literally like throwing things and getting angry, and like my friends and I have gotten a little bit too aggressive while playing. Things have gotten broken. It's happened. But I love that people have committed, and you guys also, it seems like when you guys are playing it, it's also full commitment to the bit, which just makes it more fun.
I mean, I'd say that's kind of how we know if we're doing it right. That's why we make the games. Like, if something creates a lot of emotion, whether it's laughter or anger or people yelling at each other, that's when we're like, okay, what happened here? Let's reverse engineer it, or let's just watch it unfold. But those are our moments. Those are why we keep making them, and they're also the ones that we look out for to know, is this game working? Is it good?
That's awesome. It's so cool. What's up, Warren? Let's hear it.
I think for me, I'll tie it back into the COVID stuff. I was lucky to go to Australia last year for PAX Australia, and we had so many people from another country. Like, that, it was, while we're sitting there for I think 4 days, just so many people coming up and sharing stories of like how we got them through a dark time. And I guess Australia had pretty severe lockdown protocols, so like,
yeah,
it was just one of those things where story after story came up, and it's I feel like, you know, we kind of went through it. It's kind of like, oh yeah, you know, we helped people through COVID, and then when you actually have a person telling you their story about how they got through it, it was just very moving. And it's just, after a few days, I'm like, oh, this is, I just know we've done something really good. So it's something I'll always keep with me. So
That's phenomenal. You guys are so much fun. I love talking to you guys. So you guys have Jackbox Party Pack 10 coming out. Can you tell us a little bit about your games so that people know what they're getting into? Can you tell us anything? I don't want to get in trouble, but at the same time,
we've spilled the beans at this point.
Let's hear it so people know what to expect from this year, and let's go.
Yeah, like Brooke just said, it's all announced. I know for certain, like either for streams or interviews or stuff, I used to have to keep like a Word doc right next to it of like, don't say this, we haven't announced it yet. It's all announced, it's all out there. Awesome. But also, just as a mid-interview check-in, for this high headcount interview, Adam, you're nailing it. So,
oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes. So TKO2, why? It was the sequel of this pack, so it was the first to be greenlit. And I know the design team really sat down and said, okay, some of the things we kept in mind were keep what we love about TKO, because, you know, we love playing it. It's been very popular. And try to add things that maybe weren't possible in TKO. So that's where we got, like, what would be something you'd want to do that you weren't able to before? That's where we came up with, like, there's different garment options in it. You can do like hoodies, tank tops. We have different colors that you can use. Our drawing interface is a little more like amped up, and borrowed quite heavily from Champed Up because people really enjoyed that drawing system. So we stole it.
I thought you did that on purpose. I thought you said it was amped up because you were setting yourself up to say Champed Up.
That was a happy accident.
I loved it.
Wordsmithing.
Will you still be able to purchase the t-shirts?
That's a great question, Adam.
Because we have 2 of them in our household. My partner went real hard on committed real hard to the bit on some of these.
Adam, you're going to be real happy because that was something we absolutely kept in mind, was like, yes, I think it's real fun that you can create whatever your twisted, hilarious shirt is and then make it a reality afterwards. And we even looked at just different options. Like if you want, I don't know, like a softer fabric or like different things, those are going to be part of it. Like we want to cater to those people that want their TKO2 creations to come to life. So as far like, you know, we added a bunch of things in the game. The final round is a little bit more like higher energy. There's some fun things you can do in our second round where you can go back and change your or someone else's drawing to maybe give it like a higher chance in the battle arena. So if you like TKO, I think you're gonna like TKO2. Those are the kinds of things we always tried to maintain what we felt like made TKO great. Like just the high, like battle energy of it, the pace, the way you can kind of get right into it. We held on to that and we added some more things that we hope people will enjoy.
So excited. That was my favorite Jackbox game, was TKO. So
you've only played through 6, Adam. Get back in there. You'll have a new favorite when you do your homework.
Yeah, 9 apparently has 1,000 great games. So. Brooke, what you got for us?
So yeah, this year I directed Dodo Re Mi. It's our first music rhythm game, and it's been a wild ride from start to finish. An amazing concept pitched by Chase McClure, one of our engineers, who just really knocked it out of the park with the tech. And this was like, again, a dive into new tech, new kind of experiences for us. But what I can tell you about it is you're going to come in, there's a song list that includes Jackbox songs, public domain re-envisioned, so with some different genres, as well as original songs. Within the realm of all those songs, you're jumping in and you are picking your instrument. So you pick an instrument that are listed by difficulty. You have lane number information. You have the actual sound of the instrument coming out of your phone, so you can test it. And all of the instruments were in-house created. These are curated sounds. Like we went to a college and recorded people playing the wildest instruments I've ever seen. A contrabassoon, had never heard of it. It's amazing. But we have like bassoon, as well as we have dogs howling, an actual dog from Michelle Leatherby, one of our marketing folks. Dogs is in the game. There's instruments like gargling or constant screaming. So you can pick these and then play. And then the cool magic of it is you're playing in the moment and the sound's coming out of your phone. But then as a group, you are scored as to how accurate you were, because you then have to perform it. The game takes all of the audio from your controller and then puts it together and renders it as a track. So you hear what you played back, and then you can see your accuracy, your combos in real time. And if you do accurately enough, the plant that you're playing for, by the way, you're birds. I didn't mention that. You're a bunch of birds. Not, just relax. And if you play accurately enough, the plant won't eat you. But if you don't play well enough, the plant's going to eat you. And our goal was to make both situations very fun and satisfying. So that is it. And there's some different things we're exploring there too. We have kind of drop in, drop out, which is a unique experience for Jackbox. So it's like you can determine how many songs you want to play before you end sessions. You could play one song, you could play 20. And then get a wrap up of it. And throughout that whole experience, at moments when you're in the selection lobby and after you play the song, people can be joining. So if you have a bigger party and different people want to jump in, we tried to recreate the feeling of like a jam session so people can come in and out. So it's a lot of fun. And I wasn't, rhythm games were new to me. My team is very musical and they're awesome. And we kind of brought that joint experience of amazing musicality meets some of us like to tap buttons, and so I'm hoping that the game brings all those people together to be able to play it.
So my question is, if you're a musician, I play a lot of different instruments. If you're a musician, will you have an advantage? And if you played hours of Guitar Hero, will you have an advantage?
I think if you have musicality, I think like there definitely will be an advantage, as if you've played rhythm games before, you know that it's not a one-to-one, like you're not playing the instrument in the traditional sense, but that sense that we've also done something where there's a sync up moment that happens right before the song plays to ensure that this plays well great. In the room as well as streaming.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, so a lot of thought has been put into that. So there's a classic tap, tap, tap that happens before every time you play, like a little ritual. And I think like when you're properly synced up, if you're a musical person, then the rhythm, because it's all laid out to the parts you can, like when you go into the instruments, they're divided by the parts of the song. So you could play the melody, the harmony, the counter melody, the percussion. So all of that info is there if you're a musical person. And again, I cannot emphasize enough, if you're a tappy, you hit the thing that speaks to you. You're like, I like the way that this cowbell sounds, and I'm going to play that. And it's got one lane. This is me. So I think we're hoping to like, again, appeal to both kinds of folks.
I love that. Alina, what you got for us?
So I was in Dodo Land and just remembering playing Constant Screaming with 10 people, and I just can't say how that was just great to hear the same music heard from both sides, and it's all yelling. Anyway, you should try it. So about Fixie Text. Fixie Text is also one of those games where it's a perfect marriage between the tech and the comedy writing, which is both things that Jackbox bring to the table really well. So the idea of Fixie Text came from our comedy writer, Liz Anderson, who's done some great work in previous games as well. And her thought was, what if you get a risky text on your phone, you don't answer it, you hand it over to a bunch of friends, and they all answer it for you, but two things. A, they're all writing in the same message at the same time. B, you cannot delete. That was broken. The key wasn't there. I don't know. It was great. So that was the premise, and it was so good. And the additional thing that I love is that really got me and another engineer on board was the sense of, we have an emotion we want to have people have, which is that I wrote a thing, it's now out there in the world, it has a life of its own. So that was the general concept. And so the things that we wanted to give people was this sense that you're all writing in a text box and you have a somewhat important message. But essentially, the premise of the game is you're writing messages for someone else. So you're like a script writer, but for text messages. And that other person is super busy and doesn't want to reply to their message. So that leans into the chaos. You can write whatever you want. They kind of want the people to stop writing to them. So what you do as a player is you have a basic message that's kind of standard and uninteresting that you need to make better. And essentially the other group is going to vote on the most hilarious or the most surprising words and phrases that come out. And so what was really exciting for us to develop here that we hadn't done at Jackbox before was this real-time typing and synchronously. So that was a really interesting challenge for us because we had real-time typing in Boomerang for the exit messages, and we had, pick your own words and stuff. But having it be synchronous for several players at once, we basically had to rewrite a whole system of how do you know if you're writing and you can't delete, like where are the words, how do you go from garbled letters that everyone is sending to something that's coherent, so that if I'm writing on my phone and Tim's in there and messing up my words, that people can actually see those jokes happening as we go. So that was a real technical feat from our infrastructure engineers. Lena Guerrero was a big part of making that possible, and then we had others who expanded on that. The other part that was really fun was to see how our writers could write these sort of fill in the blank messages that already had character. So they developed these characters that players are going to respond to, and they're funny. Maybe you're writing to someone who's impersonating Santa Claus, or you're writing to your boss, or you're writing from the guy from the gym who's consistently flirting with you and you don't know what to do. And you still want to give some personality as prompts, as all of the fun prompts that we give to our players, but you want to leave spaces for groups to self-insert. So the writers did a really great job in these sort of nugget-sized phrases with really good areas of entry. So not everyone is jamming in the beginning of the text. There's, like the evocative ... Am I going to jump in there? Am I going to, start off on a rant and make a joke at the end and then have Spencer get in there and change it completely? That was something that was a lot of really exciting architecture from our writing team, from our gameplay engineer. And all of this is really well supported by the world that our artist Bruno and musician Kelly put together, that really just like ties it up in a bow and makes it really fun and hip chaos to be a part of.
That game is going to stress me out.
You'll love it.
It's going to be
It's
great.
got lo-fi beats. Lo-fi
So
beats.
good.
It's going to be great.
It's so good.
Spencer, let's hear it.
Yeah, so I directed Time Jinx, which is our time traveling trivia game. That's a fun alliteration for you. It's such a great jumping off point for a trivia game. It's very like inspired, I think, in the choices. So the main crux of the game is you'll get like a prompt, which is like, travel to the year the balloon boy hoax happened, right? So then you get a little range, you get like a 50, 60, some of your range, and you enter that date. And then where you end up on the timeline, how many years off you are from the correct answer is your score.
Oh, cool.
So the goal is like golf, right? You want to have the lowest score at the end. But luckily, there are a bunch of like secondary question types in which you can then reduce your score from that. So there's a whole, like I said, a few different varieties. So one of the question types is one where you're time hopping to different parties, different decades from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, early aughts. And you need to respond to the person at the party's host in the decade appropriate answer. So you could potentially come off as like Steve Buscemi in the like, hello there, fellow kids meme, you know? So you're really trying to answer based on the decade itself. So that's one secondary question type. Another secondary question type is a time loop. So you're going to get 2 questions, multiple choice questions, twice in a row. You can change your answer or keep it the same if you're really confident. And there's a bunch of different stats that show the second time around to kind of play some head games. Like it could be like, well, Tim, who's winning, selected B. Do you want to change your answer? That type of thing. Yeah. So there's time loop, and then there is one that's called fixed time, and that's like basically trying to fix the butterfly effect. So things based on people going off to the wrong years has basically affected space-time continuum. So you now have to fix it. So you get like a totally incorrect statement. You have to fix it with what actually happened in that event. And then the game culminates with well, actually, there's a couple surprise questions in there too, just to give it a little bit more variety. And then the game culminates with players having to go in the future, because that was a fun challenge for our team. Was we have all these questions set in the past, obviously history is a big component of it, but how can we craft questions that make it in the future? And we're happy with how those ended up. So that's the way the game ends. You have to go in the future to the right year. So yeah, that's Time Jinx in a nutshell. It was really fun to use every design choice thinking of some time traveling trope and having that influence the mechanic in the game.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Warren, finish us off.
All right. Yeah, I did Hypnotorious this year, which, as you might guess from the title, involves hypnotism. So we have all the players are attending like a hypnotist show. He mesmerizes everyone to believe they are someone or something else. But instead of making everyone like a chicken, he's made them all into different types of things. And they're all sorted into different categories. And so, but the problem is you don't know what the category is. So you'll get, say you're Batman in this example. We're going to ask you a question. Are you? I don't know. So so you would answer a question as Batman might answer it. But here's where we kind of get into the whole thing. Someone may seem like they're Superman based on their answer. So like, okay, we belong together. We're both superheroes. But as you start sorting yourselves out and clues start becoming available, you're like, well, wait a minute, we don't belong together because you can fly and I can't. Or I think it's because you're an alien and I'm a human. So if you give too much away at the end of the game, there's a chance for you to identify the one person who doesn't belong with anyone else.
Wow.
And so if you've been giving away too much information and you don't even know if that's you until things become more obvious, you could have like painted yourself into a corner. So it's really hard to deny that you're not the outlier, as we call it. So it's kind of a game of like, you want to be funny and say things without just saying like, well, I'm Batman and you're Superman. It's like, you just don't want to give away the game. So it gets, when it's going well, everyone is very, very vocal and very accusatory. Yeah.
It seems like that's going to be one that people are going to get, Spencer-fied and just start screaming. It's some of these games, my partner is somebody that everybody just accuses automatically. They just have a very suspicious aura to them at times. And it's one of those things where I will always lose to them in these kind of games, Warren, because they just know everything about me. And so like
sure.
Adam's lying. I know it to be true. Adam's lying. Adam's the one that's out. These all seem so exciting. I'm so excited about Party Pack 10. I'm going to have to get it. I'm going to have to pick it up. I'm going to have to invite all my friends and get them to play this. This is so exciting.
It's such a good pack. It's like from tip to tail.
Y'all have sold me so hard. Y'all have sold me so hard. And it's one of those things that you can see your joy in creating these games, and you can see the excitement that you guys have for them, which just makes it more exciting to play them. So thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. We want to thank you from gamingtrend.com for joining us on our We Interview series. It's just been so special to hear your stories and about your project coming up, and we appreciate you guys so much.
Thanks so
much.
Well, thank you, Adam. Yeah.
Can I try to get one term maybe into the zeitgeist, which is if you get so activated by a Jackbox game that you start shouting out at your fellow players, maybe we call that a hamburst?
Hamburst.
Hamburst.
Based on
Wait, let's get it
Spencer's-
trending.
Hashtag
trending.
Hamburst in the
Yeah.
comments.
Hashtag Hamburst.
Do what you can.
Thank you guys.
No, thank you.
Thank
All right, thank you.